Good morning, friends. It's good to be here today. Thanks for joining for Journey Home Meditation's morning sit. We are going to be doing a little contemplative discussion here and some meditative practices and some shared breathing. So I'm glad you're here. And I, too, am happy to be here. It is an absolutely beautiful day outside today. It's got that wonderfully characteristic frigid air of winter, but the beautiful sun is coming through. And my drive to work, there's a couple different routes I can take, but it takes me about a half an hour or so, between 25 and 30 minutes, depending on if I had coffee in the morning or tea, and if I'm in a hurry. But it is one of the most gorgeous drives, and there's this spot. And I believe I've talked about this before. I've definitely talked about it in my live meditation sessions, but I'm not sure if I've talked about it on the morning sit here. But I wanted to share, there's this spot on the way in, and it's on a road called Tequilma Road. If you're local, you know where I'm talking about, but if you live in other parts of the world, there's a road here called Tequilma Road. And it's one of the main roads that I would take to come from my home, which is an off-grid home out in the mountains, to get down into the thriving metropolis of Cave Junction. But on this drive, place in the drive where you come around a couple of curves. And as you do, you enter into what was a clear cut. I'm not sure the acreage of the cut. It may have been 10, may have been 20 acres. I'm not really sure. It's hard to judge because it's surrounded by forested residential area, but there's this big open wound in that forest, right? This big clear cut that has occurred. And I remember when that was cut, and for years it has been one of those places of resentment. Like you could be driving along and then you would hit that spot and I would cringe, right? And if you're in the car with other people, the conversation would always turn to what a travesty it was, the questioning of why they decided to do this cut there, the anger over why it's profitable to extract resources in that way. Just all of these pretexts for feeling injustice. And when I say it's a pretext for feeling injustice, I mean to say that we already have this sort of deeply embedded understanding or feeling that when somebody uses what power they have to dominate or control, when power becomes control, and they exert that over beings and cultures and places and people that are unable to stop that onslaught, that force, there is the feeling of a deep injustice. Right? And that's how it feels when you enter into a clear cut like that. It feels like somebody came along and did it because they could. There doesn't seem to be any good reason. But this is where the story starts to shift, and it goes into some places in me where I have to come to some reckoning and sit with some discomfort in my own body. Is that part of the drive now is one of my favorite places on the drive. And part of it is because of the pain associated with it, the anger, the resentment, the loss, the grief, the being upset, has started to transform into this beautiful opening. And as I come around those curves, you catch the winter morning light is coming right through that cut, which is, over the years now has already regrown a substantial amount of underbrush, which is another discussion about ecology that we could have. But what happens is that pathway along the river collects a massive amount of fog overnight, and it moves through. And when it's cold, that fog gets caught on the branches, and then it freezes and turns to this beautiful frost. And then the sun comes up and breaks through that opening in the forest and just shatters across all of the dew-covered leaves that have frozen, right? So this frost just ignites. And it's this beautiful scar. Because there's this place that was once holding it, and in a lot of ways still holds a lot of these uncomfortable feelings of rejection and these feelings that bring up some of the worst of us, really, some of the hardest way, like instead of speaking for justice, you start wanting vengeance. I do, and I have to rework my mind and understand that my mind has been trained to respond to pain and discomfort in that way. I've been trained by my culture to ask for vengeance as justice. But as we sit with this over the years, and I come through there and I see that morning sun shooting through, and it just lights up, and it's just beautiful. And you can see the clouds and the sky, and it feels like a promise. It feels like a promise. There's this moment where usually I will turn off the music unless the song that's playing or whatever it may be that I'm listening to is really exemplifying that moment, right? Unless it's making that moment even larger. I'll usually turn it off because I like that part of the drive to be this silent awe, this wonder of the beauty of what time and patience and eventually acceptance can do. And acceptance not in the way of justifying the injustice, but acceptance in the way of being with that land as it is. And that helps me to be with me as the way I am in that moment. So I don't judge my own judgments. I don't rile myself up and validate my bloodlust in that moment. I just sit with it and that beauty that comes in these mornings. It's such a point for me of shift in my morning drive. It's almost like a reset. Like I wake up in the morning, and some mornings I have a difficult time with my body in the winter because it's cold and the arthritic conditions and whatever it may be that my body is not wanting to experience that cold. And so then I have to do some work to bring myself out of the grumpiness or the resistance. That's the word. It brings me out of my resistance to move through my day, right? My desire shoots up. I'm just going to stay in this bed all day under these blankets, and once I get working through that and I move through my morning, I tend to open up and I have my morning rituals, my hot beverage, my hygiene, all those things. And then I start to drive, and then all of a sudden I'm kind of inundated with all of the 1,000 things that I'm thinking that I should be doing today. And all of this that I'm going to have to clean up outside of Journey Home when I arrive, because there's going to be food scraps and blankets and all of these things left outside. And then I'm going to have to sweep the floors inside when I get in there, and I'm going to have to do this and this and this. And I'm already doing 1,000 things in my mind, but I'm just sitting with my body, starting my vehicle, whatever it is. And so I've already begun the process of, again, igniting resistance inside of my body. Right? I've begun that, like blowing on the coals of that resistance to bring it back up. And then I hit that part of my drive and it reopens me. And it reminds me. And I remember what it is to not be in control. And I remember how beautiful that can become when we release ourselves of resistance and of grasping and holding tight. When we can release ourselves of that, we can allow for the shift to happen within us. It is possible. And I think this is forgiveness. I think that's what forgiveness is. So that's what I wanted to share this morning, because that morning drive today was absolutely stunning. Sometimes I'll even pull the car over and grab my phone and try to snap a couple of pictures, but usually I don't. Yeah. So I was thinking about that as maybe a way to move into this day is to consider that all of the fodder for our resistance to move through our days, right? All of the ways in which we feel impotent to create change, all of the ways in which we feel demoralized and beaten down by oppressive regimes or oppressive policies or the exhaustion of trying to keep up. If we can have that moment, that turning point, like when I turn that corner and I get into that opening in the drive and the sun's coming through, and I just remember, oh yeah, this is changing. So can I. Like, this is changing. And it's beautiful. And it's opening and it's welcoming and it's inviting. And it may not have been what was healthiest or best for that place, but I don't know that. And what I do know is in this moment right here, I can either live in resentment or I can live in that beauty of that time and that place and that moment. Either way, I'm here. Either way, I'm in it. One way is choosing suffering to continue, and another way is finding a way to, again, accommodate. Yesterday or Monday, we talked about accommodating, what that can mean to make space for. Make space for ourselves. When we make space, we are inherently becoming larger, right? We are growing around something. We're accommodating it. And I do think that the more we can do that, the more we can find ourselves getting the ability to both accommodate and to stand for health, to stand for compassion, to stand for kindness and empathy. The more we can place ourselves directly in the path of those machineries of extraction and those machineries that dehumanize us. We engage, but we do it not from a place of old resentments, but a place of new openings. I'm large enough to be here right now with this pain and suffering, and to tell you that you can be larger than your destruction. You can be larger than your resentment. You can be larger than your fear. You can be larger than your anger. You can be larger than your insecurities. And I think that that's really a possibility for moving into the conversation more. Even if you don't have that conversation externally, to create that space inside of ourselves can bring us to the table for the massive amount of reparations that are needing to take place. Massive amount of reparations. We have a lot of things to repair. We have a lot of debts to pay if we want to start talking about equity and justice. But our inability to have those conversations because of our resentments and our angers and the ways that we believe it should be, our inability to do that is allowing for this opening for those who have no interest in this moment in compassion or empathy or relating to humans or all life from a place of belonging. And they're destroying things left and right. They're plowing through our psyche. They're plowing through the land. They're running amok in the economy. And with that comes a heightening of all of the inequities of that way of life. And so we need to learn how to sit in beauty, even when that beauty came from pain. And we need to learn to show up in that way. I think I need to learn that better. I need to learn to sit at the table without feeling like I want to throw it over. And yes, Jesus Christ overturned the tables in the temples. It's one of my favorite parables from the Bible, right? It's one of my favorite things to look upon for inspiration. But I think that we might need to sit at those tables for a moment first, because right now we are not in that position of. But I don't know. I mean, if you want to turn tables, turn tables. However it is you're engaging with your compassion, then engage compassionately. I'm not telling anybody how to do anything, how to be. I'm just offering my perspective on what I think I'm learning in my journey, and where I see my openings to learn more are. So thanks for being here this morning. Let's maybe let's sit for just a second. Let's just sit. This is the morning sit, after all. I want to let everybody know that the chat feature, wherever you're seeing this, whether it's on Facebook or on YouTube, or I believe Substack has a chat feature. I'm not positive yet. It's the new format that we're utilizing is Substack. So if you have the ability to go over to check out the Substack, the Journey Home Substack, that's going to be where we pretty much do everything. It's from where we're going to have, all of our writings and our videos, our podcast content, and there's going to be a lot more things coming as my schedule is shifting and I'm creating more space to work on this project and incorporate this project into more aspects of the day. But it looks like maybe it's just Facebook and YouTube that has a chat feature in this moment. So we'll get that figured out. But I put in the chat here the link to the Substack so you can check it out. You can watch this live there. We are also still on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, all of those podcast sites. And on Spotify, there is a feature that you can, if you can navigate the site a little bit, or the app on your phone, if you go to the Journey Home Meditation page, you can find there is a way to send a voice message to Journey Home. And it's a really awesome little feature. And if you're using it on your phone, it's quite easy. You press it and it's just like making a phone call, and it allows you to send a voice message to me, your Journey Home Meditation. And I have the ability then to either play that on the air, and we can have that way of discussing something. If you have a question or a comment or something you want to insert into the discourse, I absolutely love it when that happens. And if you just want to make that call, but you don't want to have your voice on the air, you can just let me know. Please don't play this, but if you can address this question or this comment, that would be great. I would love to hear your voice. And then the third way would be also to send an email to journeyhomemeditation@gmail.com. So now we got all that stuff out of the way, how about we just sit for a moment and have a cup of tea? If you have your warm beverage. This morning I'm having some ginger in my tea and a little turmeric, and it's wonderful. It feels like medicine. It smells like medicine in the best of ways, not in the way when we were kids and it was disgusting to have medicine. This is the kind of medicine that brings you calm and safety. That's what I feel when I sit and have this cup of tea. And this is not product placement, but I wanted to give a little bit of a review of something that I really love using. Is there's a lot of different thermoses out there and all that stuff, but I've been using this tea infuser thermos from Pure Zen uh, that I just absolutely love because the stainless steel one keeps the tea warm for hours, and it's got its own little built-in infuser inside of it, so I can place whatever I'd like to infuse into my hot beverage, and I can drink that hot beverage throughout my commute, or I can wait till I get to my location and it's still warm. So yeah, I just wanted to let people know about that. It's not a product placement. I'm not being paid or compensated in any way to share that. But I like learning about things that have a good consciousness to them, and that company I found has a good consciousness, and the people running it are really fantastic. So yeah. All right. Well, all of that said, and all of that done, let's find our meditation posture. Your meditation posture is going to look different even day by day or moment by moment. There are some different ways that we can adjust our bodies and adjust our posture to change our position in the world, right? And so for right now, the practice that I use in my morning sits is to find balance, and then seeking the balance in our bodies and our minds and our spirit, our energies. Uh, just in the seeking, we are already on the path. Just the putting in our mind that we're seeking balance, because our body is always seeking balance. That's what our bodies do. Our natural body systems are balancing hormones and balancing the different levels in our blood and in our fats and our muscles and all of these things, that our body is constantly working towards balance, but our mind becomes imbalanced. And so when we set our mind to seek balance with our body, we are unifying. This is where the word yoga comes in. Yoga is to unify, to yoke. So we're going to unify our body, our mind. We're going to be allowing for our spirit, that thing that we know is older than our personality, that thing that we know is larger than our being. And allow for that to join the balance. And we're going to do all of this through the breath. Spirit means breath. And to do that properly, your posture could be opening in a way to accommodate breath better, to facilitate the breathing. And to do that, we open our spine, elongate the spine comfortably. If you're in a chair like I am, you place your feet flat to the floor comfortably, allowing your hips and your thighs to relax and rest into this moment while keeping your body upright, pulling the head towards the sky, letting the shoulders drop down, letting the arms relax and the hands lying facing upwards. And that little bit of twist in the arms by letting the palms face upwards rotates your shoulders just enough to open that chest. It's really interesting. When you put your hands down, you're twisting towards the front, you're closing your chest off. When you put it up, your shoulder blades roll back a little bit, your chest opens up. Relieving the pressure in the body as you breathe in through the nose to the bottom of the belly. And release. Breathing in. And release. breathing in. And release. Now, there's a lot of questions about whether or not you need to have your eyes open or closed. Honestly, that it's inconsequential. I like to close my eyes when I'm in a space that I feel safe to do so. But when I'm driving, obviously, I'm not going to close my eyes. But if you're going to leave your eyes open, um, detach a bit from distraction. You can have a central focus. If you're driving and you just want to have some conscious breaths while you're driving, not going into a deep meditation, just breathing into the bottom of the belly, and with your thoughts, follow that breath all the way in and all the way out. And if you can achieve 3 of those breaths in a row, you'll see the shift in your central nervous system and in your mind, and everything will become more locked in and relaxed. Um, but there's really no hard rules about the way that you're going to find balance in your body. Um, we're just doing our best here. We're just doing our best. So breathing in. And release. Thanks for joining today. Thanks for the few moments of shared consciousness, a little shared breath. There's a lot of things happening in the world. It's such a silly thing to say. There's a lot of people out there. Yeah, that's it. That's true. But in this world, with all of these people around us all the time, feelings of disconnection are sometimes more than they've ever been. And just even through these digital means, even through these formats of screens and phones and airwaves, there is a feeling of connection when you sit to breathe with someone. I feel it from here, and I felt it when I'm on the other end of this, and I sit in on other people's meditation and breath sharing podcasts and live streams and workshops. And just knowing that we're connected in this moment reminds me that we've never not been connected, and we're connected to everybody all the time. When you come to a belief or an understanding that we're all one, it doesn't mean that that's when it began. It means you were always a part of the all one. We have always been all one, and we always will be. And And whether you know it or not, you're there. So, and it's nice to be reminded of that. So thanks for reminding me of our connection. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow.